Hi, this is BJ with Midtech, and we're going to be going over Farmworks Surface software. Now I got Farmworks open here. I'm going to go ahead and insert my USB drive. It has the data I want to read on it. And wait for Windows to bring that up. Okay, now I'm going to go up here to Read Job Data. Click on Read Job Data. And we want to go down here on the left hand side to Trimble FMX Display. Click the plus next to it and go to Memory Drive. Now over here under File Path, we're going to click the drop down and choose the drive letter of our USB drive. In my case, it's drive letter F. I click on that, and now you should see a list of all the clients, all the jobs on your USB drive. So I'm going to click right here on Land Preparation, Douglas Schaefer, Schaefer Farms, Field 14. That's the field I want to import. Highlight that, and then we're going to select Delete Flyaway Points, and none of these other options you have to worry about. Click OK. Now this brings up the linker screen. On the linker screen, on the left, it shows our resources from our USB drive. This is the client, Douglas L. Schaefer, the farm, Schaefer Farms, and the field, Field 14. Now there's an arrow, and it says New. So on the right hand side you can see we don't have any clients yet. So I'm going to highlight this, and since I don't have it over here on the right, I'm going to click Create. That's going to bring up the client properties window first. I can type in first name and last name and all that, but sorted name is what matters here, and that shows up. So I'm going to say OK on that. Now the farm properties, Schaefer Farms, click OK. And then the field properties. You can see I have a boundary on my field, so it has 25.74 acres here. This field is under Douglas Schaefer, and it's under Schaefer Farms, so it's storing it in the right place. We can say OK there. Now you can see on the right hand side it created Douglas L. Schaefer, Schaefer Farms, Field 14. And up here on the left hand side now you can see my arrow points to it's linked from what it's reading in to this client over here. I can say OK. It's reading in the data. Now on the left hand side I have Douglas Schaefer. Click the plus next to him. Schaefer Farms, plus next to it. And Field 14, click the plus next to that. And you can see I have drainage planned, which will be a blank layer. My guidance lines, those were created on the FMX in the field, and the topographic layer, which was created on the FMX in the field. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on the topographic layer, and now it's building the surface. It'll take just about 30 seconds here. Now we can see all the points that I recorded out in the field. Okay, so I'm going to turn on our background imagery so we get some satellite maps. This gives us a little bit better idea of where we are. And so now this is what I call base data, the individual points that are selected. So if I go down here under views, click the plus next to elevation, let's see, right now we're on base data. I can click on topography, and this gives me the topography map I'm looking for. Now you can see, drag my legend up a little bit here. In the legend we have all our elevations and a histogram of how many acres each elevation range covers. You can see most of the elevations in this topography are in this blue to dark blue color. There's a lot of low-lying area compared to this high spot right along the right side here. The other view we can look at is watersheds. So you see the purple here, all the water is flowing in the same direction in this watershed. A few other small watersheds along the edges here. But topography is our most useful view here. So now, if I want to look at some other useful tools for layout on this, I can come up here to display options, click on that, okay, and I can turn on tributary lines. So minimum volume you can play with, that's the minimum volume in each tributary line. So we'll start there at 10. You can see there's quite a few tributaries here. I go back up to display options, change this to 100. I get quite a few less tributary lines. These are a little more major tributary. The tributaries are carrying more water. So now let's turn off tributary lines and look at flow arrows. Flow arrows are going to give me which way the water is flowing. So you can see it's going to flow kind of this direction, from right to left over on this side. Over here it's going to flow from the higher points to lower points. The other useful thing here is contour lines. So I'm going to do a minor of 5/10, a major of 1 foot. And there you can see my contour lines. So these are just some tools to help you get a feel for the lay of the land. Another thing we can do here is view this in 3D. So in 3D view, we can put on grid lines, put on the tributary lines, put on contours, and now we can click, spin this around, look at it different ways. Left click. If I right click, we can move it from one side to the other, down. If I use my mouse wheel, I can zoom in and out. And then the scale over here, if I scale this up, it gives me an exaggerated view of how this looks. So you can see we have a couple higher points right along over here, and then of course this edge of the field is much higher. It's a big hill. So it just kind of gives you a exaggerated look at your high and low points in the field. So now that I've had a look at how the land lays, I want to start laying out tile here. So over in our displayed layers, we have the topographic layer up, the boundary layer is there, and the background imagery. We need to add the drainage layer. Now, the drainage layer is blank, so you won't see anything immediately when you open this, but it does show up down here under the displayed layers. So now I want to edit my drainage layer, and when I click edit, I get a bunch more tools up here. So first thing we're going to do is draw a tile line. If I click the line tool, if I click the down arrow, I get main pipe tool, sub-main pipe tool, and lateral pipe tool. We're going to start out, you want to draw your mains in first, because the laterals need to connect to a main. So we're going to draw the main first. And I'm just going to pretend we're going to outlet right down here, out in the middle. Click there. Pull that up across the field here. Click there. And then it keeps following my cursor around, so I'm going to right click. I get the menu options here of finish. Now I have a main drawn here, and you can see right down here at the bottom it says outlet. So now I'm going to click the pointer tool here and select my main, so it's flashing. Now I want to come down here and click on the profile tab. Now we can see a side profile of the land of our pipe. This is just like in the FMX. The black line here is the surface of the ground. The red line is your minimum depth. The green line is your optimum depth, or where the pipe is going to be installed. And the blue line is your maximum depth. So on the left hand side here we have a bunch of options. These are our options just like in the FMX with a few more. So this current section is L1. Okay, we can change this name to something more useful. So I'm going to call this main 1. So now this section name is main 1. So in your FMX monitor, when you go back out to the field to install this line, you would select section main 1 instead of L1 or S1 or whatever. It'll be called main 1. My type here is main. My pipe now, I'm going to tell it what size it is. Currently there's no pipe sizes in here, so I'm going to add and give this a description. Let's say this is an 8-inch main, just for, so I'll call it 8-inch. Okay. I don't have a part number. You might have a part number you could put in there. My size here is 8. Actually, I'm going to call this 8-inch plastic. Size is 8-inch. Purchased unit. Purchase this by the foot. And cost, whatever it happens to be right now. Let's just say it's 35 cents a foot. Say okay. Well, that's 8-inch, and pretty cheap for 8-inch, but we'll just say that's what it is. Alright. So now you can see it shows up our sizes, 8-inch material, 8-inch plastic. Okay, now we can start putting in our parameters. Now, I want to use this set defaults. This will set the defaults every time for every pipe. So, we'll put our minimum depth at 3 foot, our optimum depth at 3.5, max depth 5. Looks good. Now, our outlet depth, this is something we would need to shot when we're out there. We'll just say 4 foot sounds good. I'm going to change this minimum slope to 2/10. And this connections offset here, this is so when you're connecting to a main, you can say I want my lateral to be 1/10 higher. I want to come in 1/10 higher than the main is. So I'm dropping down into my main every time. Or you can leave it at 0 so it's the same height as the main where it connects. But I'll put in 1/10 offset there. So that way when we draw our laterals, it's automatically going to calculate the outlet depth a tenth higher than what the mains depth is right there. You can say OK there. Now, it won't change we set our defaults now, so whenever we draw a new line, it'll use those defaults. But you can see here, it didn't change our numbers here, so I'm going to change these. Our minimum depth of 3, optimal 3.5, max 5. Outlet depth on this one, we're going to say we're going to outlet 4 foot deep, and I'm going to change my minimum slope to 2/10 here. Now when I click update, you can see this updated my side profile, and we're touching our minimum depth right in here. So just like on the FMX, I can look right here where I'm touching the red, and I can click. I can see right there I will be 3 foot deep, which is my minimum depth, at 2/10 grade. Right at that spot. I can click anywhere on this line right here, it'll be 3.6 deep at 2/10 grade. See, this line is pretty straight. We don't have a lot of grade right through here where I drew that main, so it's going to run mostly 2/10 all the way along here. Now you can see my outlet is 4 foot, but my optimum is 3.5. So we got this coming up here, so I can change my outlet to optimum. It's about 100 foot, and that smooths that jump right there. So let's take a look and show you what it looks like when a line doesn't work. We'll change our minimum slope here to 4/10. Click update. Now you can see the green line crosses the minimum depth right about here, and all the rest of the line is red. And on the screen here, I have an exclamation point on this line letting me know that this line violates my parameters. I'm going to click on this line again. I'm going to change my minimum slope back to 2/10 where it does work. And I'm done with that line, so I'll click anywhere else to unselect it. I'm going to go back to my tile tool, and I'm going to draw my laterals. So I'll select the lateral pipe tool. Now, I don't know if you can see this on the video, but my cursor changed to a crosshairs. So the crosshairs, you need to select a point on the main line, and then drag out here. Click right there, and then right click, finish. I'm going to go back to my select tool. I'm going to select this line, and now I'm going to do the quick and easy way of making pattern tile. This line is selected. I'm going to right click on it, go to create offset. Now I'm going to say my pattern in this field is going to be 50 foot spacings. Okay. I don't know how many exactly this is going to take, so I'll just start with a 20. I'll make 20 lines here. Okay, now right or left, figure out, well, I drew the line from here to here. So if you were standing on this line, right would be this way and left would be this way. So I'm going to go to the right, say OK, and now a whole bunch of lines here. So pan up here, there's a few that don't connect, so I'm going to select these and hit delete on the keyboard. I could also right click on the line and go to delete. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit on this so it's a little easier to see. So now I can get my select tool and go through each one of these lines. You see now over here it loaded the defaults. 3 foot minimum, 3.5 optimum, 5 foot max. And it automatically calculated my outlet depth, 3.5 foot. Or, sorry, that's the calculated depth of the main right there, is 3.5 foot. So my outlet depth is going to be 3.4, where we added that 1/10 offset. So you can see from down here, this line looks like it'll work just fine. I'm going to go up here and change my pipe. I'm going to add another one here, and we'll go with the 4-inch plastic. Size is 4. Purchased units of foot, and we'll change this to 35 cents. Okay. So now I can go. Oh, I forgot to click the update. So it came up with a message saying, would you like to save changes? And you say yes. So now I've selected the next line here. Change my pipe size to 4-inch plastic. Click update. Keep going down the line. So far all of these lines are working. Until we get down a couple more lines here. This one's giving me an error. It's saying that my outlet depth is too shallow. So here you can see my outlet depth is 3.08 feet. My calculated outlet is 2.97. So that violates my minimum parameters here. So we can change this to 8. I'll just make it the same, get rid of that 1/10 offset, and it's okay with that now. So now this next line, you can see right here where we start out, same problem. We're not deep enough. So my outlet depth is 3.04, my minimum depth is 3 foot. So I'm just going to change this outlet depth back to 3.04, the same as my main is right there. Now if I click update on that, it is not liking it. Let's just change it to an even 3 foot. And it's giving me an error that it doesn't work still, but it seems to be fine. Okay. Next line, we have the same problem. Our outlet depth is higher than our minimum depth. The other thing we could do is we could change our minimum depth to 2.5, and that makes that line work. And I forgot to set the pipe size on these. All you're doing by setting the pipe size here is giving yourself a materials list, so it's easier to estimate later how much 4-inch do I need, how much 8-inch do I need for this job. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. And select the rest of these all at the same time. Won't let me change. Okay, so now I'm going to slide down here to the bottom half. Now we can see our lines kept going outside of our field boundary. So we can use the cut line tool here, and we'll just go along the edge and follow the edge of our field down. Keep clicking and you can make curves. When you get down to the end, right click and choose finish. Now I have all these little short ends. I'm just going to highlight them so they're flashing. Here, click delete on my keyboard. Select them all at the same time, hit delete, get rid of all those tails off the plate. Okay, so I have two lines here that now have shown up that they indicated they're not working, so I'm going to click on this line. It's saying right here I'm red right at the beginning of the line, and that's because of my once again my outlet depth is below my minimum depth, so I'm just going to go ahead and change my minimum depth to 2.8. Update on that. Same with the next line. 2.8. Update that. And just keep going down the line, changing this to 4-inch. Update. Until we get all of these lines done. And just as you're going through, verify that everything looks like it works fine. You can change your parameters again once you're in the plow ready to install these, but might as well do as much verification of these lines as you can beforehand before you get out there, so that you know it's going to work. And this outlet depth may change when you get in the field, when you get in the machine, when you're going to install it. So I wouldn't worry a whole lot about that. Just make sure you got enough room in case you end up being a little higher, that kind of thing. So a couple of these up in here, we might want to consider making our main deeper so that we got more room to play with. We're going to have enough room on these lines to make it through this first low spot until we go up the hill. Now that I've got that all designed here, I can I'm happy with that design. I can click save and close. So now if we come back down here and click on this layers tab again, we can see in our legend, we'll click on legend and we'll enable range count. Okay. Now we can see we have 9,000 foot of lateral and 800 feet of main. And if I go here to size, once again go to legend, click on range count, at 807 feet of 8-inch and 9,465 feet of 4-inch. So that is my estimate for materials for this job that I'm going to need. We can come up here. Okay, so now we have our layout done, and we have an estimate for what we're going to need for materials. So now might be a good idea to go ahead and print this, so when you're out in the field you can look and say, okay, here's the lines I'm going to put in, where they're going to be. To make a little nicer map, we'll probably get rid of the topo layer. So down in here, under displayed layers, I'm going to click on the topographic layer, and I'm going to click the single up arrow, which removes just that single layer. So now we just have our background, and our background is white here. Let's make that see-through. So I'm going to click on the boundary layer, and I'm going to right click, go to display options, Now right here you can see under boundaries I have white. Drop down, go down to the bottom and select none. And when I say OK, now I can see through to the background image. And just to make this this border a little easier to see, I'll go ahead and right click on boundary layer again, go to display options, and my border width right here, I want to make that 5 foot wide so it shows up a little better. Now we have a little thicker boundary line, make it easier to see. Okay, I can do the same thing for the tile lines here if they're hard to see. I go to display options, and they're already set at 10 foot wide. So if I make them 0 foot wide, then you'll be able to see how thin they are, how hard they are to see. I'll go back, display options, I'll change those back to 10 feet. Nice thick lines so it'll be easy to see on a printout. So now I can go up to print map report. Okay. I'm just going to use the standard portrait layout, and I'm going to select a selected area and click on print. Now it's going to give me this box that I can drag around, and this will be what prints is what's inside this box. Once I get that to where I want it, and I click this print selection, and it comes up with a preview of my print. Then I would just click print this off, and now I have something to look at and reference while I'm in the field. So alright, so now we need to get our design back on our USB drive so we can put it back into the FMX. So what we need to do is go up. My USB drive is still in the computer from before. Instead of going to read job data, this time we're going to go to write job data. Click on write job data. It brings up this window. First thing I want to do is click resource list here. Okay, I'm going to uncheck everything. So if you have multiple clients, it's probably going to have tons of them checked. I'm going to click the plus next to Douglas Schaefer, plus next to Schaefer Farms, and field 14, this is what I want to export right there. So now I'm going to say OK. Now we come down to Trimble, and we're going to go to FMX display, and now I want to browse for my location. What I want to choose is just the USB drive. So my USB drive is drive F. So I'm going to click on drive F, say OK. That's all I want to show here is just F, or whatever your drive letter is for USB drive. Then I'm going to click OK. Okay. Now it's going to come up and ask me, since I already had information for that client farm and field, it's going to ask me if I want to delete that information off the USB drive before writing it back out to the drive. This basically clears off all the information on your drive. So if you're just writing one client, you have a whole bunch of others on there you want to save, that's fine. You can say no, or in my case I only have one client on my drive, so it really doesn't matter. We're going to wipe it out anyway. I'll just click yes. And ask me if I want to back up the card first. I'll say no. So now it's written onto my drive. I can close Farmworks, put this USB drive back into my FMX, copy from the USB drive onto the FMX to this client, and I will have all my survey lines already in there. All I have to do is set in my connection, measure my outlet, and install the tile.